Hey, Feminist Frequency Radio heads. We know you love to listen to the FemFreak crew break down what's been happening each week in the world of pop culture. But did you know that you can be part of making that happen? You can. Head on over to patreon.com/femfreak and become a patron of all this tasty feminist media analysis. Backers of the podcast get early access to show episodes, monthly AMA hangouts, merch discounts, exclusive bonus episode hijinks, and so much more. Check it out. Patreon.com/femfreak.
It's like, okay, well, so it's just a bunch of dudes, and then it's a bunch more dudes, and then it's a bunch more
so many
dudes.
more dudes.
And then there's one woman for like one scene, and then there's a bunch more dudes.
Yes.
And so like
a woman who has no face.
A woman who has no face. Welcome to Feminist Frequency Radio. This is the show that asks you to be critical of the media that you love. I'm Anita Sarkeesian, and I'm joined today by a woman who enjoys getting sweet armor and weapon upgrades for completing missions, Carolyn Pettit.
Pew, 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 pew.
We're also joined once again by someone who loves to join Jawas when they eat those delicious mudhorn eggs, Jessica Zolman.
I would definitely dip a hand in that mudhorn egg, for sure.
I mean, they looked so happy.
I knew it was coming, and it still brought me so much joy.
Can you guess what this episode is about? Do-do-do-do-do! This week we're talking about the new Star Wars series, The Mandalorian, on Disney+. Here is a little clip from the trailer.
I have never met a Mandalorian. I've only read the stories.
Your reputation was not unwarranted.
The Mandalorian, streaming now.
Okay. There's so much pew-pew-pewing.
It's not Star Wars without it.
It's really not. Jess, we're so glad to have you back. For folks who don't remember you from the horror episode that we had, Jess is my friend, which is the most important part of this, but also one of the best photographers in LA and maybe the world.
That's not accurate.
You're very good, though.
Neither of those things are true, but I appreciate your vote of confidence.
Well, go check it out at jzombie on Instagram, and you tell me what you think personally. Only patrons can tell us. Nobody else is allowed to tell me their opinion.
More importantly, I'm just a huge Star Wars fan, but a recent huge Star Wars fan.
We should talk about that.
We should.
Okay, but first, actually, no. Let's bring that up, and then we'll cue into The Mandalorian. I am also recently okay with Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. I never watched it as a child.
Me neither.
Didn't happen.
The first time I watched the original movies was when I was like 24.
I think similar. And then I saw Spaceballs like 1,000 times as a child. So that's the kind of house I grew up in, AKA Jewish. And it just was Mel Brooks and that was it and nothing else existed. And then, the new movies came out and I thought, fine. And I fell in love with them. I feel like I saw myself in more characters. And so then I went back and rewatched and I've seen all of them except for episode 3. I don't know why. Prequels were hard to get through. They were hard.
Isn't there multiple prequels?
3. There's 3 of them.
And you watched 2 of the 3?
Uh-huh.
Oh, interesting.
Apparently I've not watched the best one of the worst series. Well, it's fine. It's fine.
Sort of similar. I was like, well, I guess I need to watch the new ones because that's what we do at Feminist Frequency. And I was like, oh, like this has some of the same problems, but also like I really enjoyed this.
Totally.
So cool. So I come into Star Wars fandom like having disliked it for a long time and now being like, well, there's some really interesting stuff happening in this space that I think is really valuable. Carolyn, you've been kind of a Star Wars fan, right?
I mean, Star Wars fandom was not optional like during my childhood, right? Like Star Wars was inescapable. The films were inescapable. The action figures were inescapable. The video game tie-ins and the merchandise was all inescapable. It was just sort of part of, because I'm a little older than you are, Anita. Like it was just kind of part of, part of growing up in an American suburb at that particular time. But I mean, it's partially, of course, because I was just told to like it. But yes, like I definitely as a young person really liked the Star Wars films. I loved the journey of Luke Skywalker. You know, I loved those films, and and then kind of became more ambivalent actually about Star Wars as I got older. But now it's real big. It's a big part of the discourse again. So I am like, there are things I love about Star Wars and things I really don't, but I'm invested, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, though all of us with our differing levels of investment and engagement are going to attempt to make sense of the first 3 episodes of The Mandalorian. So just to prime us in, and for folks who might not be familiar, the most high-profile offering on the brand new Disney Plus streaming service is The Mandalorian, a new series set in the Star Wars universe that follows the adventures of a mysterious bounty hunter who finds himself morally conflicted after completing a particularly difficult and well-paying job. Taking place not long after the events of Return of the Jedi, The Mandalorian has already sent the internet into cuteness overload. The Mandalorian has already sent the internet into cuteness overlord.
Not overlord.
Jesus.
I mean, yes,
Yoda, Baby Yoda is our cuteness overlord.
He's my cuteness overlord.
I mean, true. Now we can't cut this out because that was so good. Because Baby Yoda is our overlord. That's it, y'all. That's what we're trying to say. Baby Yoda is the cute overlord. So I'm not finishing that sentence as it was supposed to be said. And like I said, as of this recording, we're 3 episodes into the first 8 episode season, and a second season is already in production. Oh boy, all right.
I mean, I could spend the entire podcast talking about Baby Yoda, aka the package, aka the asset, aka the child, aka the kid.
Mm-hmm.
They call it the covert. They call it the covert. No. The covert is not the Baby Yoda. Maybe the covert is like where the Mandalorians hide out. Like there was one part where like the Mandalorian is like escaping with Baby Yoda, and all the other Mandalorians come to his rescue. Yeah, and they say something about you have to move the covert. But I guess I thought they meant Baby Yoda, but I think now that they mean like where the Mandalorians hide out. So I take it all back. Anyway, this is cool. Great stuff.
Okay, so let's start with this nice, lovely softness. So in the second episode, we get a lot more of Baby Yoda. So the first episode, you get the babe at the end. Do we know for sure that it's Yoda?
Well, it's not Yoda.
It's not Yoda.
We're just calling it Baby Yoda because
it looks like Yoda.
We don't know what species. We don't have a name for the species that Yoda is.
And they're not gendering.
They aren't, because Yoda is Yoda and Yodel is a character who's a female, whatever Yoda is. So there does exist, a Smurfette, if you will, of whatever species they are.
No, not a Smurfette, a Ms. character. I'm sorry, I got my own tropes wrong.
But so Yodel and Yodel, I mean, I literally, my first thing that I wrote down in my notes was, did Yoda and Yodel make love?
But they do say that it's 50, that the person that's being tracked is 50 years old. Yeah. So they are confusing us.
The baby is 50 years old.
Yes.
Yoda, the character we know as Yoda is, I want to say like 3,000 years old or something.
And he's alive during this time.
Well, no.
Baby Yoda baby for 50 years?
Right? Yeah, Baby Yoda has been a baby for 50 years. They even make a reference to like, they do. Some species age at different, rates than others. Right. So Yoda, Yoda just died in Return of the Jedi. And this takes place right after Return of the Jedi.
But in theory, they were alive at the same time.
Yes, their lives overlapped, for sure.
Okay.
I totally thought this was going to be some Benjamin Button shit.
It's not.
Wow.
Okay.
There is another
Everyone kept calling it Baby Yoda, but then they didn't talk about who this baby was. So
it's because it's a baby of the Yoda, of the species that Yoda is.
There's a reason why nothing of the Disney franchise has used the words Baby Yoda, and the only thing that they are referencing is both the quote, like the things age differently, and then they're calling it the kid and the child. No one is in universe or even on social media of the Disney franchise calling it Baby Yoda, because Yoda is Yoda, Yodel is Yodel, and the asset does not have a name yet.
Maybe it'll be like Yoshi.
I'm in.
This is the crossover. Baby Yoda is now Yoshi. It's great.
Baby Yoshi.
Baby Yoshi. It's going to have the best tongue. I mean, that didn't mean to be gross, but you know how Yoshi likes
I get it.
It's good. And anyways,
Baby
the whole
Yoda
point,
likes to eat. We've seen Baby Yoda eat.
True.
It's
something.
true. Baby
Oh my
Yoda
God.
eating that toad brought me more joy than I can ever explain. I need a tattoo of it now. That's how insane I am already
Wow.
about Baby Yoda eating a toad.
Okay.
Baby Yoshi. Anyways,
Okay.
the whole reason I brought all of this up is to say that the one thing that I actually like had very strong feelings about, it felt like an ache in my heart.
Yes.
The animation and like the subtlety and the movement and the visuals are so good with Baby Yoshi. I'm gonna make this happen.
Okay.
That I was like, no, I'm not into this show, and every time the asset is on screen, I'm just like, oh, what's gonna happen to you?
I mean, I have conflicted feelings. I mean, I fully, like, of course, I think Baby Yoda is adorable. And of course, I respond that way to Baby Yoda.
I'm gonna cut out everything you're about to say. Unacceptable.
So,
Where's
there's
the butt?
there's a story on theoutline.com with the headline, Love Baby Yoda, I Cannot. And it's by Jeremy Gordon. And basically, like, to kind of sum up what Jeremy Gordon says, you know, he basically argues that Baby Yoda, it kind of represents the almost like cynical pinnacle. I didn't mean to do that rhyming thing, but like
I like
of
it.
this like merchandising, Disney's like merchandising, you know, just calculated. It's as if Baby Yoda was designed scientifically in a lab to provoke that reaction from us.
That's what every Pixar movie
No,
is.
of
That's
course.
what every, like that is just, so I guess that's not fair to say.
But I mean, Gordon does recognize that. Like, he even acknowledges that. Like, he says, after all, isn't that the ultimate goal of any commercially accessible art? You know, and he goes on, sure, but the Disney, Marvel, Lucasfilm content machine is historically singular. You know, it's basically like he has a problem with it because it's part of this particular corporate empire, and it seems to, like, the way that the internet responded to it so effusively is just like, and I share that, like, okay,
the cynicism of marketing strategy.
yeah, like let's like at least we can adore Baby Yoda, but let's at least hold that adoration with the awareness of like what Baby Yoda is a part of and what Baby Yoda kind of on the more kind of represents in a more calculated, like, cynical way, right?
I want you to know that right before I came on this podcast, I sent my friend a text message that said, if that toy company who makes the really good Star Wars toys doesn't immediately come out with a realistic Baby Yoda, I will scream. It's Hot Toys. That's I'm obsessed with everything that they do. So I am a part of the problem, and I fully recognize and acknowledge that. And while you're not wrong, someone, dear God, take my money.
Yes.
Well, I'm also gonna say, I might not. I would buy a nice enamel pin of Baby Yoda for sure. But I also hear that, and I am choosing to be ignorant of this fact or like critical of the thing I love, because I don't know how I'm going to get through this show
Without Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda. Like, literally, it's the only thing in this show that I can say that I like. There you go. That I love.
I want to hear more about that. Hey, Anita, tell me more about that.
All right. So okay. The show is written by Jon Favreau. Does he write all 8 episodes? Because he's written the first 3, right? I know he wrote the first one and the last one. I just didn't check for the second one. So I think he writes the whole thing. You know, and he's a dude that makes stuff that is questionable sometimes.
Loves Iron Man.
Yeah.
Can't stop putting ironworks into all of his films.
Yeah, true.
Constantly
right?
ironworkers, blacksmiths, hammers. Go.
My problem is that, like, so before I didn't watch a trailer. I didn't know what this was about. I literally went into the first episode just like, cool, it's a Star Wars thing. And it just felt like I wrote very cowboy in my notes.
Yeah, it's a spaghetti Western.
Totally.
I mean, which let's acknowledge, Star Wars has always kind of been a space Western.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Which is not necessarily the issue. It's like, okay, well, so it's just a bunch of dudes, and then it's a bunch more dudes, and then it's a bunch more
so many more dudes.
And then there's one woman for like one scene, and then there's a bunch more dudes.
Yes.
And so, like,
a woman who has no face.
A woman who has no face. And as the internet very graciously shared with me, that apparently she's like in charge or the head of the Mandalorians or she holds some superior position.
Yeah, the
but that
armor is important.
That's not made clear in the first episode unless you know lore.
Yeah.
Also, Anita, the reason that Bowser always kidnaps Princess Peach is because she's a powerful political leader.
She's really the one that's powerful, right? She's like in charge.
It's that same like bullshit kind of argument. Like, okay, but I mean, within the dynamic of the show, like, I mean, like my big problem is background characters, even minor characters, supporting characters. There are like no women of minor significance, right? Because when I brought this up on Twitter, people are like, one person was like, yeah, but there's like 5 characters with speaking roles tops in the whole show, period. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a universe of men. It's where women are so like, I mean, so dramatically like underrepresented that if it were flipped, if it were flipped and it were all women and like one man in like a minor speaking role, it would seem like super, super weird to all of us. But because patriarchy, we accept this ratio and this dynamic as more or less, quote unquote, normal.
I had several people respond to me when I tweeted about this, being like, I didn't even notice. Like, thank you for pointing this out. I literally, because we're so used to always seeing men as heroes in starring roles. But to me, I feel like our media landscape has actually changed in meaningful ways. And so in the Star Wars franchise, we have so many women of color, men of color. We've got all these characters. So this felt like a real regression in this franchise that felt like it's been evolving. And so it was very stark to me as soon as I started watching it.
Yeah, it almost felt like this moment of like, I remember finishing the first episode and thinking, so are they just like making something so the men who have been complaining can be happy? Because as much as I love Horatio Sands, why couldn't that character have been a woman? You know, the blue alien. Or, okay, a speedster guy comes up. Like, why is the driver of the speedster not a woman? Like, I'm seeing small, minor opportunities where someone is saying something and has a speaking role. Episode 1, where like, wouldn't have been a problem to make it a woman. It didn't need to be like your famous best friend or your super fanboy SNL, you know, like cast member, but instead here we are, all men the whole time.
And here's the thing, we are 3 episodes in and there's one woman with a speaking role and she's only in 2 of the episodes and she's only in 1 scene in each of those episodes.
Yes.
We do know that Ming-Na Wen is a cast member who will be joining the show in probably a pretty prominent role, but like that doesn't like undo or change the fact that again, like the show, like it normalizes patriarchy, right? Again, like if the ratios were flipped, it would seem super, super weird, but as it is, it seems acceptable or normal. And that's only possible because we live under patriarchy. And it's,
I think I've also been upset at how much they're like bringing Gina out as a part of the press tour, knowing that we're 3 episodes in and there is no Cara Dune, is like, so what's going on with that? Like it ends up feeling performative.
And also, I guess she like can't talk about anything.
No. And so that's also been a 3 episodes in a moment for me of like,
I have
what's
to share
the deal here?
So I tweeted some of my own tweets about the the representation issues on the show, and like I thought really hard about making the joke. This show really puts the man in Mandalorian, am I right? Like knowing full well that it was like a really, like a goofy and obvious joke and kind of playing that up. And then I decided against it, but helpfully a figure who I'm not going to name, but a stooge of the alt-right, quote tweeted one of my tweets and said, "It's Mandalorian, not Woman-Dalorian." And I just want to I just want to thank him for helping me make my point there.
So there were some people, there's a bunch of that in my time. So the reason we keep bringing up Twitter, and I'll just say this very quickly, is that I tweeted being like, are there no speaking voices, women who are speaking in this episode? And there's one, but I got berated, and 6,000 replies later, I got the many different types of responses, which were all hostile and angry towards me and my feminist opinions.
Of course.
Anyways, there were several of those Mandalorian ones, and there were some people making fun of it. So someone made a meme that said "Ma'am-Delorian."
Ma'am-Delorian
and
is
I
good.
thought that was very amusing.
I would watch the show Ma'am-Delorian.
I would totally watch that
I want
show.
that. I really want that. Yeah, I think the thing for me, it's like I am in love with this show. I think it is wonderful and amazing. I'm all in. I've rewatched all of the, 2 of the episodes, and I will absolutely rewatch this 3rd episode. But at the same time, I think it's healthy and totally normal and fine and wonderful to be like, what the hell is happening?
Okay, so sort of putting this point aside, which is very hard to do. Like, let's get into the actual content of it. I have 2 questions.
Okay.
Yes.
First, if the Empire has fallen, why would soldiers be visible in stormtrooper outfits?
Right, because they're like remnants of the Empire, kind of, I think, trying to hold on to their power.
Wouldn't you do that in secret?
Well, I mean, they are kind of like they are hidden in this. You know, the Mandalorian
Answer the
has
fucking
to.
door.
But they're in the seedy like underbelly where Mandos are hiding out already. So they're kind of in a safe space, if you will.
A safe space for Nazis. Cool.
For Nazis.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, second question, and this probably is a part of. There's probably lore and all kinds of shit, and I'm trying to be funny here, whatever. But like, what is the efficacy of a bounty hunter in a mask that is known as a bounty hunter when they're trying to get bounty, when they're trying to hunt their bounty? Like, everyone knows what you do. Wouldn't you want to be... If I was a bounty hunter, I would try to be like incognito, like you would if you were like serving people with court subpoenas and shit, you know?
That's the Star Wars universe doesn't work that way. Like, so in the second episode, we meet a droid voiced by oh my god, what's his Taika? Oh my god, what is his name?
It's Taika Waititi.
Taika Waititi. Thank you. I quit my anyway. So he is an IG unit droid, right? And like that is a brand of droid or a model of droid that is like apparently, because we first see one in The Empire Strikes Back.
That's an IG-88. I hate myself for knowing that.
Wow.
But yeah, well, the droid in Empire Strikes Back is IG-88, but we don't know that the droid in Episode 2 is the same is IG-88, right?
It's not an 88. He's an IG-11.
Thank you.
Which is a similar model.
So like the whole IG like line of droids is apparently just like, it seems like they're just manufactured to be bounty hunter droids. So like you see one of those droids, you know, pretty damn sure like that's a bounty hunter droid. Yeah. So, which is weird, Anita. Your point is completely well taken. It is.
Anita, here's my follow-up question. Is Dog the Bounty Hunter a subtle character in real life while hunting bounties who hides and sneaks? He's got a camera crew following him. Yeah. And you know what? I'd be scared of him if I saw him coming. Yeah. But I'd know that I was caught.
But he could also just be like, a wrestler or something.
You think not everyone knows? He's in Hawaii. He's on like the smallest.
Okay, fine.
He's in the tiniest place on Earth.
Fine.
I think the Mando is Dog the Bounty Hunter of Star Wars.
All right. That makes me not like him anymore. Go ahead, Carol.
I at first really did not like the show. In the first 10 minutes, I was really turned off by the show for a couple of reasons. I thought that what Jon Favreau was doing initially was less like actual storytelling and more that the show was functioning as a kind of Star Wars reference dispersal mechanism. So because like right off the bat, you have the Horatio Sands character makes a reference to Life Day, which is this thing from like originally introduced in the much maligned, hilariously awful Star Wars Christmas special. Yeah. Also on the ship, like the Mandalorian has his own like personal private carbonite like freezing machine, which to me, like when I saw that, I'm like, it bothered me because, and I'm going to be a bit of a Star Wars nerd here for a second, like I always thought in Empire Strikes Back that like the ability to freeze Han Solo and carbonite was like some property of kind of unique to Cloud City as a mining facility, and that like when they torture Han Solo and he's like, they didn't even ask me any questions. That was all like calibration to make sure that the carbonite freezing process didn't kill him, and that it was like this really, really delicate, like dangerous procedure. And now, dude, Mandalorian just fucking has a portable one on his ship. I was like, I mean, okay.
Well, like 50 years later.
Yeah, well, I guess if it's been that long, yeah. So my point is, like, I'm much more forgiving and invested in the show now that it's actually that the story has gotten underway, because, like, I do love like underworld intrigue and stuff, and I do love, like, as much as I do wish there were more women in the show, but I do like the casting of, I think, Werner Herzog as like a fallen, maybe Imperial officer who's trying to hang on to some shreds of his power is like a really compelling figure. I mean, I think Carl Weathers is great. Like, I'm totally into this, like the world building stuff that it's doing with like the bounty pucks and the cantinas and the clandestine meetings and all that stuff. Like, I've really warmed up to the show, I guess is what I'm trying to say, since my initial like distaste for it in the first, in the initial going.
I have not warmed up yet, although, so I was like, cool, the whole first episode is just going to do this thing, and then the second episode is just returning from doing this fucking thing. And it reminded me a lot of like the parts that I don't like about Mad Max Fury Road, which are just like, okay, we're on the road. Cool, we're on the road some more. Cool, this is a video game. Why is this movie a video game? And so it just, and because I wasn't super compelled by what was happening or wasn't really invested. And I was already kind of annoyed at the lack of women in this show.
Sure.
The third episode didn't necessarily get me more engaged, but I actually, that's not true. It did, because I was like, oh, cool. Now we're getting this is a very hero's journey, right? Yeah. We're getting the, like, you're going to risk everything because you are going to do the thing that you don't want to do, but you know that you should do.
The sin.
Right? And so now I'm really curious what evolves from here. How much do we learn about Baby Yoda? Like, what is that relationship going to be? Them together at the end of episode 3, where he gives Yoshi the knob.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh.
Well, and there's definitely going to be a Mandalorian Wars moment where they find out that there is a history between Mandalorians and then these Yoda-like, beings that is typically wrought with war and like distrust. And
well, and so I'm wondering, at the end of the third episode, you have him fighting for his life because all of a sudden all of the bounty hunters are trying to catch
it's like baby. It's like the end of John Wick 2, only only Star Wars.
Like,
John Wick 2 meets The Rocketeer, and I was for it.
I was like, oh, jetpacks are cool.
Jetpacks are cool. And I love that. I wrote down I gotta get one of those. I was like, it's so cheesy, and that's exactly what I wanted him to say. Thank you.
I had that exact feeling too. But were those other Mandalorians that came in to help them?
Yeah.
Help him. So that was a little bit narratively confusing to me because so it's like, oh, we're going to come out and rescue our own when we just made the point of being like, we don't come out. So that's cool. But
honor.
But he's breaking code.
Yes.
So they're honoring their fellow Mandalorian, even though he's breaking code. So I'd love to know.
Clansmanship. It's like the tribe mentality.
I'm definitely fuzzy on the Mandalorian moral code at this point because so other Mandalorians are upset with him for taking the Imperial currency, right? But also doing jobs and pulling in currency is how they support the I forget what they call them, but they make reference to what I assume are children, like supporting
with an F.
Foundlings?
Yeah.
It's not younglings, because that was in other Star Wars movies, but
it's very clear that Pedro potentially was one.
100%.
Well, he said he even says I was a foundling once or whatever.
Yes.
We should also mention briefly that episode 3, The Sin, was directed by Deborah Chow, which makes her the first ever female director of live action Star Wars. And she is also directing the upcoming Obi-Wan series starring Ewan McGregor.
The entire series. And I think she's coming back for episode 7.
She is. Well. She does direct another episode of this season of The Mandalorian, yes.
A thing I saw some other people pointing out, and just to say it, was like Rick Famuyiwa, who directed Baby Yoda episode, was the first ever Black director of a Star Wars live action as well. Which, I saw that on my version of the internet, but I also saw some people pointing that out. And in response to Deborah's exciting news, because apparently no one can just have their own exciting news. But there's a lot of groundbreaking stuff happening with this series. We're just not seeing it.
It's just not on screen.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. And I think when we do think about progress in media, it's two different conversations that should be related but aren't always, right? So when I heard that episode 3 was going to be direct, like the stats about the first female director.
Yes.
I was like, yeah, well, but the script. Right? Like, it's not like she wrote the script. She's just directing the script that is super male dominated, right? And the other thing here is, I'm like, cool, exciting, but also annoyed that it took this long. And it's really, I know that that's kind of not fair, but also a little bit.
Yeah. How the fuck did it take this long?
Yeah.
Truly. It is upsetting, I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We can acknowledge that this is a cool moment and and simultaneously remain upset that it took this long.
Well, especially because I do like this episode so much. I am having this moment of like, there was real emotion and there was real camaraderie and there was real like, this is your community. This is your, the people that you congregate with, that you've made your home with. And I think those kinds of, obviously, you didn't write the episode, but I felt it in the directing. Like, I felt it in the angles. I felt it in the moment that he found the little like baby, crib that was holding Yoda.
I loved the carrier.
That moment was so nice when he found it in the trash. And I feel like those moments were created and built up because of the perspective that they came from. At least that's what it seemed like to me. And so I did have this moment of kind of, a little bit of anger. Like, this would have been so nice in these films that I also love so much. Having more of these visual, like, emotional moments.
As interested as I am in the Mandalorian's sort of the individual emotional journey, like how he develops over the course of the season and the series, like there's that part of me that's like, okay, is he like learning as a bounty hunter, like learning to see the value of like all life, or is it just that Baby Yoda is so cute? I mean, there is that weirdness, right? Like, he's still I don't know that he would hesitate to kill another Mudhorn necessarily, right? But Baby Yoda is so cute, so Baby Yoda, he goes back and he rescues, but that's fine. But I mean, we do have a tendency to like value the life of like cute things more than other life,
I totally agree. And I was thinking about how like really violent, like how much death there is. And it was really actually troubling to me. And how
he vaporizes so many Jawas.
So many.
Yeah. Like, and he just when they're like, he pulls them off and throws them off of their vehicle and like, I was just like, what the fuck? And then he vaporizes all the other bounty hunters. Like, there's just, and it's not even that, but there's so much of it. And it's very flippant. And it's very just like, this world is a violent world. And it's not a commentary. It's just like, cool, action.
I do think it might be a commentary, though, because like we're in the in-between. It's like chaos land. There is no authority, not good or bad. Like, we are in the moment between the original trilogy and the new trilogy that like the New Order and the, things, brains broken.
But
I do think
I
do think that there is a reason and an intention behind all of this violence. And I think it is that there is no democracy. There is no, leadership. Nothing exists right now.
Sure. Although I will say that we all got really excited with the jetpacks and the scene where everyone's coming and fighting each other because it's like, we're not thinking about the cost of those lives. We're thinking like cool action sequence. And so it's not like there is a particular framing or hate. Like, you're not wrong in that that's what it's conveying to some degree, but it's not actually making a statement about it being a problem necessarily.
Agreed.
What I was going to say to Carolyn is that like, yes, there is definitely a piece of that that's like, oh, Baby Yoda is so cute. And so I have to save the cute thing. But I also think it's just like, it's a baby. and I bonded with it, and it saved my life.
Yeah, no, totally. It's a 50-year-old baby, but yes, it's a baby, and no, I mean that's
if
valid.
you saw a baby and someone told you it was 50, you wouldn't look at it that differently, right? You'd still be
right.
like,
you're right.
Babies are cute so that they will be protected.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
I loved the visuals of him walking with the carriage, sort of whatever
Just
the
like
carrier thing, just hovering next.
So
next to him.
that was great.
I also really did deeply love him holding the child and then also like blastering stormtroopers, because I was like, first of all, I'd kill 1,000 stormtroopers for the Baby Yoda. I would. I'll admit it. Sorry. I'm a violent person when it comes to Baby Yoda.
I mean, they're basically space Nazis. It's okay.
They are. It's okay. But the first thing that I tweeted after I watched the first episode was every character in The Mandalorian is daddy. And then now that has become truth. The Mando is truly daddy. Please note that the tweet was specifically referencing Werner Herzog. That's fine. Don't worry about it and don't read into it. But the Mando is now officially daddy. And it brings me a little bit of joy, even if he's a very violent daddy.
Very violent. Yeah.
You should pull that back. Maybe Baby Yoda will teach him how to love.
Oh, maybe that'll make up for the whole show. Oh, but you know what? We ain't getting into this whole love is the fucking answer. Because that's what happened with fucking Prometheus and the other one with the fucking, what was that? Was that the one with the library at the end? And like,
oh, I know. Not Arrival, but the other.
No, not Arrival.
I know what you're talking about.
No, yeah. No, but it wasn't Arrival. Anyways, just love can't be the answer. I'm sorry. Please don't do that to me. It's all about me. I would like to end every statement I make with "I have spoken."
Me too.
I was so floored when that got to the end of the first episode and the credits are going and it says like Nick Nolte and I'm like, Nick Nolte. I remembered he was going to be on this show, but he wasn't in this episode. I'm still waiting for Nick Nolte to show up. And then I realized that he was the Ugnaught.
I had no idea.
Nick Nolte. He's great. I have spoken. Anytime my anxiety gets really, really bad, I can feel myself wanting to say, I will initiate self-destruct.
Yes, that was great.
I will initiate self-destruct.
Yes.
It's happening right now.
There are like, that relationship I enjoyed as much as I could, I'm trying to give this show something because I'm like, I really was not enjoying myself watching it. But there's little things between like the two of them and the fact that did he have a name?
IG-11?
No, the guy, the Nick Nolte character. No, wait, who did Nick Nolte play?
Yeah, the Ugnaught, like the short, helpful alien.
Yes, that guy on the planet with the big blurgs or whatever.
Yeah.
Their relationship I thought was sweet because he was like, I'm going to help you whether you want it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like, but in this very like supportive kind of way that I thought was like part of what I imagine is going to be the character building of the Mando, starting to accept help and realizing that he can't do everything alone, which he, whatever, which maybe isn't the thing, but because they're they're like a cult, but, I don't know. I liked it. I thought that was, him being like, okay, you now need to be an adult and go and negotiate for your parts back. And he was like, I don't want to. They're mine. And like, you have to do this thing. Anyways, I liked that.
Teachable moments.
It was a teachable
It's
moment.
never too soon to listen to someone providing you guidance. I don't know what I'm saying.
No, you don't. Okay.
Fine,
I think we're done. I think we've tapped out 3 episodes. Anyone got any other thoughts you want to share about this before we move on?
I did like the moment of I'm your only hope before all hell breaks loose.
That was the kind of Star Wars reference that I can
Yeah, I thought it was a little cheesy.
Y'all, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you and a lot of other people.
I know. Here's the thing. I think, I like bad things. Anita will tell you. I like when it's over the top and cliche and heavy handed because I am dumb and I just want, please feed me dumb. And so I enjoyed it. I had a little moment when that happened.
I had a little moment that is so dumb. There's a scene in the first episode where you see the aliens on skewers and then they're like in a cage and it just reminded me so much of Farscape.
Salacious bee crumbs. Tiny little salacious bee crumbs.
Wow, you know a lot, Jess.
I know.
Well, that's a good use of your brain space.
Thank you. Please invite me to your next trivia night everyone who's
Yeah, for
listening.
real. I'm like, noted. Let's go to one. Do you win things at trivia
I
nights?
do. Or I get in second place and I get really mad about it and then I have to drink.
Oh, that's exactly what has to happen, clearly.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break and we will be right back with some freakouts.
Hey, Feminist Frequency radio heads. We know you love to listen to the Fem Free crew break down what's been happening each week in the world of pop culture. But did you know you can be a part of making that happen? You can. Head on over to patreon.com/femfreak and become a patron of all this tasty feminist media analysis. Backers of the podcast get early access to show episodes, monthly AMA hangouts, merch discounts, exclusive bonus episodes, and so much more. Check it out. Patreon.com/femfreak.
Now it's time to talk about what's been thrilling us, moving us, upsetting us, or infuriating us this past week. Carolyn, what do you got for us?
Well, speaking of things that are over the top and heavy-handed, as Jess was just saying, so my freak out this week is another baby-obsessed piece of media. It is the game Death Stranding by Hideo Kojima. So Death Stranding has
many requests from our patrons for you to talk about this, Carol.
Well, Death Stranding has a lot of the problems in its own way that The Mandalorian has. I mean, it posits a very male-dominated world. It definitely. So I want to be very clear that my freak out is not a kind of a full endorsement of literally everything the game says and does. However, the game is it's very unique. It's unusual. It is fully committed to its vision.
I feel like you were asked to give feedback on something, and you're trying to find really nice ways of saying I have nothing nice to say about it.
No. I mean,
I don't think that's what you're doing. But
no,
that's
not
what
at all.
like
I legitimately love this game. That's the thing is
wow.
I am saying that I love this game while also acknowledging that it's not great where gender is concerned. That it's I fully. So I'm just trying to say that by saying that I love it, I'm not trying to give it a pass for those things or to absolve it of those things. However, it is, in my mind, a truly excellent and an outstanding game. It got amazing performances by Norman Reedus and Mads Mikkelsen. Mads Mikkelsen,
your favorite.
Mads Mikkelsen, we get to hear him say things like, "I want my baby back" all the time.
Ooh.
So
wait, I want to hear that. Play the clip, Anita. I'm just kidding.
It's a very big, sincere, open-hearted game. It is a game that has big themes, and it goes for them in the most kind of goofy, maybe at times outrageous ways, but it has no cynicism. It is not an ironic or cynical game. It is a very deeply sincere, deeply felt game, and I admire it so much for its commitment to being what it is and to not prioritizing standard ideas of fun, but of setting out to do something really distinct and different than what is the norm in the AAA video game space.
Wow, that was not at all what I expected was going to be a reaction to this game. Interesting. I'm curious now.
You would hate it.
Okay, I was going to say, would I hate it? Because it sounds like I probably
would. Yeah.
Noted.
Yeah.
All right. Jessica.
All right. So my freak out, other than Baby Yoda's baby noise, is that
Baby Yoda's baby noise.
Come on. Okay. But the actual one that I have, because I live in the shallowest pools of the internet, is that today a Florida dog got into a car, put it in reverse, and put his paw on the steering wheel and managed to spin around in circles for an hour in a cul-de-sac.
Shut up.
And it was breaking news. And the best part about it, I think, is that the neighbor on the news interview says, well, when the cops finally got in the car, the dog jumped out. And I thought, they ought to get that dog a license. She literally didn't know what to say, was clearly laughing the entire time, and just had a moment of pure panic. Just pure panic.
That is Amazing. So the dog basically didn't move for an hour.
First of all, the dog's name is Florida Dog.
Florida Dog.
It's very important that we know that a Florida man has now been upgraded to level Florida Dog. I don't know what it means, but I like it. Yeah, this dog, I guess the owner jumped out of the car. Car was running in park. And when he jumped out to go get something, the dog jumped in the car. I don't know how any of this happens.
So why would it go on for an hour? Wouldn't you just get in the car?
So they no, it was locked and it like ran into a mailbox and was like, I don't know what. It's like, you get out of your car. There's video of it. Please look it up.
We'll find that and link
So
it.
this dog, clearly, you know how your car's doors automatically lock?
Mm-hmm.
But then when you like open it and you have an older car, sometimes it stays locked. And so if it closes, that's it. Your car's running and you're locked out of your car. I think newer cars, when you open it, it unlocks itself, but that happened. It just was a series of unfortunate events. I believe it was a black lab.
Oh, that just makes it so much better.
It just was got out of the car
baby
wagging
lab.
his tail. Just so happy. Like someone pet me. I don't know what just happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a really good freak out.
I mean, I'm freaking out for so many reasons.
We should have so many puppy freakouts. I was on a video chat with someone who fostered a dog to see what it was like to have a dog, and it turned out that dog was pregnant and now has like 9 puppies. 5 puppies, had them for 9 weeks, and is like, oh, maybe I don't want a dog.
Not puppies. Nobody
That's
wants
a lot. So, but it was really cute to see.
Yeah,
so
much
puppy
like
freakouts.
I think if it were on my cul-de-sac, a Florida dog would be less hilarious. That neighbor, though, the clip of the neighbor is also golden. I can't recommend it enough. She just was like beside herself. Didn't even know.
Amazing. My freak out this week, I specifically saved for the next time that Jess would be on because I watched a horror movie. So, on my many flights where I watched loads of things that are super random, as we have well established on this podcast, I ended up watching 28 Days Later.
Hell yeah.
Which is very good.
One of my favorites.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So I was kind of, plane watching, and I was probably playing something on my phone at the same time and just wishing I was fucking not in hell at that moment of my life. But I realized that, part of our conversation and like, there's this very clear impression of what horror is.
Mm-hmm.
And like those kinds of movies, I really like. They're not like jump scares. They're not like terrifying in the same sort of way.
Yeah.
They're a lot more psychological. And I think that it's important to remember that usually when we have a genre, there are a lot of subcategories of that genre that can vary in terms of what we're into and what we're not into. I didn't realize how old it was. Like it felt
it's old.
Yeah, like it felt very dated in a lot of ways, even though it was still a very compelling story. It's frustrating to me that at the last piece of it is a lot of what you talked about on the horror episode of like, it's the other people that you need to be afraid of.
Yeah.
And so it was a little frustrating that the narrative was these soldiers wanted to rape and impregnate women to keep, the species alive.
Totally.
And so it's a lot of like female body horror that I'm not exactly down with in the same way. But overall, I found it to be quite enjoyable.
I would say Danny Boyle kind of does one thing really well. And maybe having nuanced female characters is not it. But Slumdog Millionaire and Trainspotting are great movies. So thank you for 28 Days Later as well.
Didn't they remake Trainspotting recently?
I think they did.
Yeah.
I thought they came out with a sequel.
Ooh, pass.
It was a sequel with the same cast. I was obsessed with Trainspotting when I was a teenager because I loved everything that had to do with I loved movies and books about like doing drugs.
Sick.
It was so stupid. Anyways, I don't know if I would like Trainspotting today, but I remember really loving it.
But 28 Days Later, enjoyed.
I enjoyed it.
Interesting.
It holds up. I mean,
Cool.
it's visually like dated, but it's still, I liked it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. All right. And this week we have a guest freak out from Jurgen. Let's take a listen.
Hey, it's Rob, aka Jurgen, and I want to freak out about the podcast 0 Hours. It's from some of the same people who made Wolf 359, one of my all-time favorites, and it's 7 fiction stories around the theme of the end of the world. Strikes me as a very Caro story in that it's slow-paced and dialogue-driven, and it's all about the need to find human connection in painful situations. I won't say it's flawless, but I'm glad I stuck with it because the last episode absolutely slayed me. So give it a listen. I think you'll enjoy it.
That was actually a really nice pairing with 28 Days Later, isn't it?
Yeah.
Trying to end of the world, finding human connections. I am going to go download that because I'm about to be on planes for 60 hours because I really hate myself so much. So, Jurgen, thank you so much for that freak out. Y'all, if you want to submit your own, you can do that at feministfrequency.com/freakout. That's FREQOUT. Thank you all so much for listening to Feminist Frequency Radio. Stay tuned for the Freakin' After Party, which is only available to backers of this podcast. You can learn more at patreon.com/femfreak. You can find us everywhere great podcasts are found, and if you haven't yet, go to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and review us. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and all the social medias at FemFreak. Jess, if folks want to find you, do you want them to do that? And if so, where would they do that?
I do want you to do that. Part of my career depends on it, so please do it. jzombie.com, JAYZOMBIE, and then I'm also jzombie everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, not Facebook. I don't do that. Don't go there.
Well, that's what Instagram is now, right?
Yeah. Find me on Instagram if you want all of that.
Hit that follow button.
Those are the only two things I do, so don't go anywhere else.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Why bother?
Enjoy.
Great. The show is engineered by Rob Pera. Sarah Norales provides technical support, artwork by Jamie Varon, and our intro music is by Phil Circus. Join us next week for another feminist dive into pop culture. Thanks for listening, y'all.
Later.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye, bye, bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. That would be copyright.
I think you could play 30 seconds. Rob, play the 30 seconds that are allowed.
Should we play really quick? Hold on. Can we do this? How fast can we do this? How fast can we do this for the people who would actually stick around this long?
I believe in you.
Well, wait. I see a picture. I see it's there. No, an ad. Oh, we have to play the whole ad. Oh, everybody, this is definitely bonus material.
Fail.
This is the whole 13-second ad, y'all. What a boring ass. All right.
You forgot about this weird musical
Totally.
intro.
Oh,
The
it's
circus
just their
intro. They're
puppets.
puppets.
My generation was a Backstreet Boys generation. I never really got into NSYNC.
Okay, they're
I never
literally at
liked
the
Backstreet
same
Boys.
time. What are you
They
talking
were like
about?
one after the other.
No, they absolutely were not. I was a fan of both.
Okay, we're gonna go learn this dance now. Bye.
I already know it, Anita.
Okay, it's over now.